What if I told you that one man looked at the heart of a lifeless desert and said, "I Lel, bring it back to life"? Would you believe me? Stay with me, because this story might completely change how you see our planet. You've probably heard that the Earth is drying out. But the real numbers are staggering. 41% of our planet's land is now desert, and another 40% is standing on the edge. Imagine nearly the whole world turning into a sea of dust and heat. No water, no shade, no chance for life. But while most people saw hopelessness, one man saw a challenge. This isn't a tale about government programs or billion-dollar tech. It's about a single teacher who refused to surrender to the sand. When you think of northern China, you probably imagine icy steppes or mountains, not dunes that stretch beyond the horizon. Yet there lies the Kubuqi Desert, once home to farms, rivers, and families. Decades ago, the wind began to change. It grew harsher, more violent. Grass vanished, rivers thinned, and entire villages were eaten by sand. What used to be farmland the size of Massachusetts turned into an endless wasteland. China tried to stop it. Massive tree planting campaigns, grazing bans, deep wells. Nothing worked. 2. The desert moved faster than people could fight it, until one ordinary man decided he'd had enough. His name was Wang Wenbiao, though today, people call him the Desert King. Back then, he was just a teacher with a bicycle and a stubborn will. Every morning, he pedaled 6 miles through sandstorms to reach his classroom in Inner Mongolia. The winds were so strong they buried his bike's wheels and sand filled his mouth and lungs. Most people would have left. Wang didn't. One day, after another exhausting ride, he made a promise to himself. If I can't escape the desert, I'll make it work for me. That promise became his mission. He quit teaching and started a small salt business, one of the few trades possible in that desolate landscape. But instead of saving his profits, he reinvested every cent into something everyone called impossible, turning sand into soil. At first, people laughed. Some called him a dreamer. Others said he was mad. How could one man fight an ocean of sand? But Wang was patient. 2. He began experimenting with native plants, studying wind directions, and testing soil composition with his own hands. Then came his boldest move, something no scientist dared to try. He decided to introduce rabbits into the desert. Rabbits? Cute, fluffy, completely out of place, rabbits. You might be laughing right now. Go ahead. But what happened next shocked the entire world. Wang didn't pick just any rabbit. He chose the Rex rabbit, a French breed prized for its unbelievably soft fur and resilience. These animals could survive on minimal water, endure freezing nights, and still multiply like, well, rabbits. Here's the magic. Rex rabbits produce waste rich in nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, the exact ingredients missing in desert sand. And since they can't digest grass seeds, every time they fertilize the ground, they actually plant life. Nature's tiny gardeners. Wang realized he could create a perfect cycle. He planted willows, trees with deep roots that can reach hidden underground water and hold shifting dunes in place. The rabbits ate willow shoots and left behind nutrient-rich manure. That manure turned sand into humus, and humus allowed more willows to grow. Rabbits feed the soil. Soil feeds the trees. Trees feed the rabbits. Nothing wasted. Everything alive. Within just a few years, the desert floor began to darken, patches of brown and green appearing where once there was only yellow. In 10 years, the transformation was visible from the sky. The wind slowed down. The dunes stopped moving. The air cooled slightly. The desert was breathing again. By the time most of the world heard of Wang's work, He had already planted more than 300 million willows, covering 1,400 square miles of land. Wind speeds dropped by up to 90%. 15 million tons of sand were stabilized each year. And yes, millions of rabbits now lived in the middle of a desert. But here's the twist. This wasn't just an environmental project. It became a full-fledged economy. The Green Miracle provided meat, fur, fertilizer, and jobs. Over 10,000 families returned to rebuild their lives. A family could start with a few $1,000s and earn 4 times that in their first year. Do you see what happened? What began as one man is crazy dream became one of the most successful, sustainable economies on Earth. And just when the world thought he was done, Wang changed the game again. He looked up and saw the sun. In the heart of the Kubuqi Desert, where temperatures soar and light burns relentlessly, he built something breathtaking. A solar power station shaped like a galloping horse. 196,000 solar panels, stretching for miles, turning sunlight into both energy and art. From the sky, it looks like a massive metallic sculpture charging across the desert. But beyond the beauty lies function. The Genma solar plant generates 2.3 billion kilowatt-hours of power every year. That's enough for nearly 500,000 people. Here's the genius of it. Those panels don't just make electricity. They create shade. Shade that slows evaporation. Shade that lets grass and shrubs grow underneath. Shade that turns sand into soil. Underneath the panels, sheep and rabbits graze, naturally trimming vegetation, a biological lawnmower powered by sunlight. The panels reduce wind speeds by half, stabilize the soil, and create a cool microclimate that helps more plants grow. Every ray of sun that once burned life away now gives it back. By 2022, the project had saved 760,000 tons of coal and prevented 1.85 million tons of co-emissions. The same as planting 80 million trees. What was once called the Dead Sea of the North is now a living oasis, powered by nature itself. And guess what? Nature noticed. Deer foxes and wild birds returned. Their numbers quadrupled in just 30 years. Groundwater levels rose by nearly 2 meters. Wells that were once dry now fill with clean, cold water. Over 100 native plant species reappeared. Desert flowers, poplars, grasses. The air smells like earth again. The sand is no longer dead, it's alive. Stop for a second and imagine this. Standing on a dune at sunset. Wind brushing your face, the horizon no longer golden empty, but green and breathing. That's not fantasy. That's Kubuqi today. And here's the part where I want to hear from you. Do you believe this model could work somewhere else? Tell me, in the comments, could Africa as Sahara or the American Southwest become the next Kubuqi? But wait, some of you might be thinking, didn't rabbits destroy Australia? Good question. They did. Few dozen rabbits. Imported in the 1800s, multiplied into more than 1 billion and turned 2/3 of the continent into a wasteland. So why did they destroy one land but save another? The answer is control. In Australia, the rabbits ran wild. In China, they're part of a closed ecosystem, carefully managed, contained, and integrated into the local economy. It's not chaos, it's design. Still, not everything is perfect. Critics argue that the so-called rabbit model is just one piece of a much larger system built by Wang's company. N Group involving smart irrigation, soil tech, and government planning. Some worry that too much fertilizer might lead to nitrogen buildup or change groundwater chemistry. Others say nature could still push back. But let's be real, no innovation is flawless. What matters is that the desert stopped moving, people returned, and life began again. From 2010 to 2020, the Kubuqi ecological economy generated over $10 billion in value. Not only did it restore nature, It proved that sustainability and profit can coexist. And this idea is spreading. Thousands of miles away, in southern Spain, a region called Andalusia faces the same nightmare Kubuqi once did. Once the Roman Empire's breadbasket, Andalusia is now suffering from droughts so severe that rainfall has dropped by 40% in 30 years. Rivers have dried up, fields cracked open, and farmers are digging 600-foot wells just to find a trickle of water. According to the European Union, 3/4 of Spain's land is now at risk of desertification. But instead of giving up, Spain is fighting back, and they're borrowing lessons from Kubuqi. They've launched the Andalusia Restoration Plan 2030. Building a Mediterranean green wall, planting millions of olive trees, acacias, and native shrubs to hold the soil and capture moisture. They're recreating hybrid solar farms that grow crops beneath solar panels, copying the same symbiosis of energy and ecology that Wang pioneered. The same idea. Dan T. Fight the desert. Teach it to live again. Think about that for a second. One man's battle with the wind in Inner Mongolia has now inspired an entire continent across the sea. That's how powerful ideas spread quietly, like seeds on the breeze. And maybe that's the real miracle here. Not just the trees, not just the rabbits, not even the solar panels. It's the mindset, the belief that nature isn't an enemy to be conquered, but a partner waiting to cooperate. Wang once said, "The desert is not a problem. It's a potential." And maybe that's the sentence our entire species needs to remember. Because if one man can turn a wasteland into a paradise, what could we do together? If you've watched this far, you're already part of that change. So, before you go, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Because next time, we'll explore another story that proves the impossible is just the beginning. And tell me in the comments, where do you think the next green miracle will happen? Could it be your country, your city, or maybe your backyard? Don't underestimate the power of one person who refuses to give up. Sometimes, that's all it takes to make the desert bloom again.